Our guest in this segment, as we continue talking about economic development with Jennifer Smith in Berkeley County. She is the executive director of the Berkeley County Development Authority, and as such has detailed knowledge of this sports complex that Eddie Guggenauer sprang on us last week. Jennifer, welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Usually, this time of year, we're talking to you about some other things with entrepreneurs in the area, and I think we still have one more of those segments, do we?
We should. There's some that could not participate during the times that we've given them, so I'm hoping to get another session.
Okay. So far, they've all been just amazing people and delightful, and many of them have made me hungry during the segment.
We have a variety of different businesses this year. We're excited about it.
Yeah. But this sports complex, so everyone's been keeping this quite the secret.
Well, it has purposely, not technically been a secret, but we have been developing it for well over a year and a half. We have done a feasibility study as well as a pro forma. We're currently in the design phase. And it did come out when we had presented it to the governor. But I'll take it back a little bit. So when we first started this project, so the Development Authority owns about 256 acres on the west side of 81, right off of Exit 8. And this property has been a little bit of a challenge. We've had a lot of businesses that were interested, but there's no utilities to the west side currently. So that is something that we're currently working on. But the sports tourism idea had come up several times even before I was even in this position. And the sports tourism industry, it's about a $53 billion industry as we speak, and it is one that will continue to expand. I believe by 2028 it's going to be over 80 billion. And it's a market that is recession-proof. Your children will always play sports. And I have 3 kids myself. All of them are extremely active in sports, and we have been traveling for well over 20 years. Oh, yeah. It's something that, you want your kids to be active. It's proven that, if your kids are active, they're more likely to be less obese. They do great in school. They are more likely to go to college. So there's many different, benefits to sports, not just playing sports itself. But.
And the Tabler Station Road properties down there give you a unique opportunity to do something like this. How many acres are we talking about that are still available down at Tabler Station, Jennifer?
So we own the 256 acres. So the sports complex itself will be about 15 acres, and then the flex fields will be, so total with the flex fields, it's about 72 acres, and then we'll have 180 left to develop.
And how likely, we can get into some of the specifics of the development in a minute, how likely do you think the ability to get the sales tax increment financing in order to finance these fields, how likely is that to pass? So
I do want to mention we currently already have a TIF in place. It's a tax increment financing that is already on this property that can go ahead and start with some infrastructure. Now with the TIF, that does take, or the STIF, that does take legislative approval. And that's something we're currently working on the application as we speak with Steptoe and Johnson. They did help us get the TIF approved as well. We're also working with Piper Sandler. So Joe Nassif, he has worked in the state on many different TIFs and STIFs, and ones that also included sports complexes, one being the Highlands in Ohio County. So we've already done a lot of bond projections, and the numbers actually came back really positive based on the concept that we have done. And like I said, we do need legislative approval. We presented it to the governor because we also wanted the governor to be supportive of this project as well. And, to focus on, this is all new tax revenue that currently doesn't exist. So without the STIF, this revenue doesn't exist. These current, families are going to other states and spending those funds. And, we can also keep residents here that are currently going out of state to go do different things as well, whether it be shopping or restaurants. We plan on, with the entire concept, providing that here right in Berkeley County.
So lay out the concept. What is in it?
So good question. Currently, it is just a concept. So you have your sports complex plus the fields. We also have an emergency safety building that we have carved out. But there is a lot of like strip retail. There is some obviously fast food restaurants, a big box store, potentially a grocery store, because we kind of want it to make I don't want to say like a town center feel, but most of the folks that are going to these sporting events, they want to go in the front door and, maybe not leave the facility if they have another game, but they can walk out and go enjoy, lunch somewhere else and then go back to the facility. But I wanted to preface that there will be there's planned 3 hotels currently on site, but depending on how big the facility will be, we can, and that's where we can partner with neighboring counties, including Jefferson County, because the hotel motel tax is huge, and Parks and Rec and the CVB will get 50% of that. So that is something where they will then benefit. But the sports complex is not just a complex for sporting events. So it is 8 basketball courts that then convert into 16 volleyball courts and things like that. But it also has the ability for a conference space to hold conferences and, any type of event you would like to have up, and it will hold up to 4,000 people.
Matt Miller.
So when you look at the facility, how did you kind of determine the size and scope of what might work here in our particular area, especially on the I-81 corridor?
That's a good question, and that was all based on the feasibility study. So it wasn't, anything that anyone said they want this or they want that. It was all based on what could benefit Berkeley County. I've seen a lot of ask for a pool, and we need a pool there. I will say I'm also working with the YMCA, and we are working on a pool.
That'd be a part of that facility?
Not part of the facility,
okay.
but part of the space. So we're also partnering with WVU Medicine. WVU Medicine will have about 12,000 square feet, and they're expanding the orthopedics on site.
What is a flex field? How does that work when you mention the main facility, but then flex fields?
So there is about 42 acres of flex field, and those flex fields can be flag football, they can be soccer, lacrosse. There's a whole combination of things with different lines and things that you can play.
All right.
Assuming those are all turf fields then.
Yes, it will all be turf fields.
All turf. Great. Indoor in any of those, as far as football complex, will there be like the bubble tents, that sort of thing?
So currently right now we don't have anything in the concept that is anything turfed inside.
All right.
Mr. Gilstrap.
So you mentioned that I think you said 3 hotels. So have those partners been selected? Are they ready to go?
No, that was a concept. So we've also partnered with Thrasher Engineering. And Thrasher Engineering has developed a plan based on the 256 acres that we have. But based on the event space that we have, obviously, those could be changed, and it could potentially be 2. But no, we do not have any of the outside retail space taken.
So when this is built, assuming it's built and it becomes successful, what is the impact on traffic?
That's a good question. So Exit 8 is actually underutilized at the moment, and I'm currently working with...
If I come off Exit 8, what do I see now?
So Procter & Gamble's on the east side.
Okay.
So Exit 8 would be where the airport is.
Okay.
Tabler Station Road. So we're currently working with the Department of Highways. So the Department of Highways is also planning a welcome center on the east side as well. So we're working very closely together.
Attendant to this project, or are they doing that anyway?
They're doing that anyway. So we're partnering with them to make sure that, because their project is also on the east side or the west side, and as they're developing their plan, that The exits are the same, and if there's a potential light, it's all in the same location, so it can flow properly. But upgrades will need to take place, and that's something that potentially the TIF and the STIF could assist with. I will say, going east, everything has been expanded into 3 lanes going east, and potentially that could be going towards the west as well, only to a certain, our property actually borders 81, so as soon as you get off 81 to the west, it's right there.
So this has already been pitched to the governor? Or,
Yes.
and how do you gauge his response?
He was supportive of the project, wanted to learn more, and wanted to just discuss numbers a little bit further. So that's something that we, like I said, we're working with Joe Nassif with Piper Sandler, and I have a good team behind us. We also have the Sports Facility Company, who has done all the feasibility studies and the pro forma, and they currently operate 93 facilities across the United States. So we have a good team backing us.
So the total cost, not how much, not what the county's going to pay or anything, just the total cost of this when it's done is going to be what?
So we've included all the ground clearing for all 256 acres, everything but vertical.
Vertical?
Well, vertical construction.
Like the building? Okay.
Except for the sports complex event center, and it's about 186 million. But we are not asking for the county to fund this project. We do feel like, based on the numbers that were provided by Joe Nassif in his bond projections, that this project could be paid for with STIF funds.
Okay. So somebody's, whether it's STIF funds or whatever, but somebody's going to pay 186 million just to get, before we have a building. Then how much do we expect the building to cost?
That's a good question. I think it depends on what is actually built. I don't have those estimates.
Speaking of, do you have conceptual drawings and things
Yes.
already laid out for what this will look like?
Yes, we do. So if you go to our website, it's developmentauthority.com. So under useful links, it's actually Project All-Star at the very top. And there's a presentation that we presented to the governor, and it does have all the layouts, including the inside space and the outdoor fields as well.
You mentioned earlier this property's already in a TIF district or area. Would the STIF eliminate the TIF if or they would both be in place?
No, they would both be in place,
Okay.
and I do believe that the legislature wants to see the TIF in place before the STIF is created. So the STIF actually does take money away from the county, but for operational purposes, but it also allows them to pay for infrastructure that they wouldn't have otherwise done.
Do you have to install a separate board to run the sports complex once this is up and running, considering the money involved?
So the sports will all be operated and maintained by the Sports Facility Company.
The sports facility company. Eddie mentioned, and I hope I got the figures right, that he thought, I think the estimates were $11 to $12 million a year generated from the STIF for this acreage.
It was about $12 million a year.
About $12 million, and that's all sales tax money that would stay in that area.
In Berkeley County, yes.
Okay, would that be enough to pay the bond finance charges plus the operational costs of staff and such that would have to run that?
So the building itself, and I'll say yes, but in two different ways. So the building itself will also be generating, as they're doing tournaments or we're hosting events. So the revenue from that will, from what we've seen from the feasibility study, will pay for itself in year 2. But the STIF will pay for itself once everything is fully developed. Year 1, that everything is developed, yes, we will be generating about $12 million, and from the information that was provided to me, it should be paid off in about 9 years. And a STIF is normally in place. STIF and a TIF are normally in place for about 30 years.
The turf fields. Do you know how many you're talking about? Is it 4?
So we have about 4 flex fields, and then we have it was 2 baseball fields that can be converted as well.
Okay, are the baseball fields turfed? Okay, so 6 turf fields, and the turf fields generally last about 10 to 12 years before they need to be replaced. And my understanding is putting one in is $1 million something, replacing them is a little bit less because the infrastructure is already in for it. Is there a separate funding source for 10 years down the road when several fields need to be replaced?
Yes. So in the budget for the sports complex, we are putting funds back towards maintenance of the facility.
Is there a projection for economic impact for this facility, and what would it have? From we talked to Ben Salango, the commission president in Kanawha County, who was responsible for putting in the sports complex down there. He said the place is so busy, you've got to book hotel rooms an hour away in order to get access to that facility when they have big tournaments going on. So that would include Winchester, Hagerstown, Jefferson County, maybe even Morgan County. Has there been an estimate on the economic impact on that?
Yes, there has. So economic impact was about $60 million in year 10.
60 million in year 10.
Yes.
Okay. Is there an estimate as to how much of an effect this could have on B&O? On the hotel motel tax revenue that comes in, and half of which I think goes to Parks and Rec?
It does. So they were estimating about 100,000 room nights. And if you just, do the math on that, I mean, you can generate at least, $500,000 for each of the CVB and Parks and Rec that they will then add to their budget.
Start to finish, if you got the go-ahead to begin this project, say January 1st, what would be the estimate for completion?
So we're thinking 2028, 2029.
2028 or 2029. And then the company that runs this, are they responsible for booking all of the actual tournaments and such?
Yes. So they're the ones who provided the budget or the information for the complex itself. So they are binded by that information that they've provided. So they have but they are very connected with, like I said, they run 93 other facilities. So they have the connections to start the facilities. And, the draw that we're bringing, I mean, I don't want to tell you how far I've driven for sports.
Well, my neighbors go to Connecticut on the weekend for lacrosse tournaments.
Yeah. But the draw that we are talking about is, about a 90-minute drive, but, you can even go 4 hours out, 8 hours out. I believe our location is just the ideal location for this.
So a few years ago, soccer, everybody, like maybe 15 years ago, everybody was going somewhere for a soccer tournament. It seems to me like it's lacrosse now. Is there a particular sport you think will get more use out of this facility than another from what your studies tell you?
Obviously basketball was a big one, and as well as volleyball. Apparently, I don't have anyone in volleyball, but apparently volleyball is a
Talk to Phil
sport.
McCoy.
Phil goes every weekend somewhere when they're in club season there. Mr. Gilstrap, we have about 4 minutes left here. Do you have another question?
Well, I'm just wondering, the devil being in the details, it's that building that's going to be going up it's got to be expensive. It's just because that's where the basketball is going to be. That's where the volleyball is going to be.
4,000 seats.
And that was about 70 million or 75 million just for the complex itself.
So we're over $200 million on this thing.
Well, so the 186 included the sports complex, sports complex event center.
Oh, okay. You
all
said
part of
not
the tab.
before vertical. I thought vertical
Except
was
for the sports complex, not the retail space.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Eddie said that you notified Jefferson County early on in the process that you were looking into this because you were aware that they were looking into it?
Yeah, so actually before they did their feasibility study, I had learned that they were going after a grant. We're all on the Region 9 board together, and Region 9 was assisting them with a grant for a sports complex. And when I heard about that, I was like, I think I need to say something. So I reached out to Eddie Benitez, and I also had a conversation with Pasha and mentioned that, yes, we were already in our feasibility study, and by the time they applied for this grant, that our feasibility study would be done.
And the same company did both feasibility studies?
Correct.
Yeah. Did you have any issues with that?
I did not. They were actually very responsive and very helpful.
All right, very good. So in regards to this complex, is there anything else that you can tell us about it that we haven't asked you about?
Well, if there's any information, so we did create a landing page for Project All-Star, and just remember it is still just a concept. The design that Thrasher has created could change. Now, I will say the sports complex itself will stay the same because that was based on the feasibility study. But if there's any information that new that comes about, we will be sharing it to the website.
You have a TIF in place that you said already would help provide funds for infrastructure on this. Does that mean this project is likely to go ahead, or is it entirely dependent on the STIF getting approved by the legislature?
It is dependent upon the STIF getting approved, but I am very optimistic that we could get the STIF approved. This is, West Virginia is big on tourism. This is just another tourism opportunity that the state can take advantage of, and right here in the Eastern Panhandle.
You may have just asked my question. I was thinking, if the STIF is approved, is that the catalyst that now says we are moving forward, or are there still other things that would need to be in place?
No, I believe that 100% we'd move forward.
Is all of that acreage that's set aside for this approved for use, Jen, or is any of it that's floodplain or whatever?
Nothing is in the floodplain, and obviously we don't have zoning, so it is currently being farmed at the moment.
All right. In regards to constructing this, is there any idea what type of economic impact that would have with construction jobs or what have you?
So they've estimated about 300 plus like indirect jobs that would be created during the construction process.
Okay. And is there any other improvements that need to take place on I-81?
Obviously, I mentioned the infrastructure needs. So we are currently working with water and sewer on the infrastructure to get to the west side. The Development Authority has also donated about 10 acres for a substation for First Energy. The substation was actually needed before the project, though. So that is something we're also working with First Energy on because of the power capacity.
Would you have any corporate partners on a project like this?
Potentially.
Field naming rights or whatever?
Yes. So that is going to be in discussion. So obviously, I mentioned we're already working with WVU Medicine, and I think that they're going to be a great partner. So yes, we're going to be visiting some businesses as well because I think there's a lot of opportunities.
Good information. Jennifer Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And learned a lot about the complex.
Got them all choked out?
All choked up over. Anyway, thank you, Jennifer.